Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Madison. My name is Logan Walsh, my pronouns are they, them, and I'm a member of this congregation, and one of the ways I serve it is as a worship associate. Today I am joined by our co-senior minister, Reverend Kelly Asprooth-Jackson, and by the worship team of Linda Warren, Heather Thorpe, Drew Collins, Daniel Carnes, and Stephen Gregorius. Special thanks to those volunteering as greeters, ushers, hospitality providers, lay ministers, and sound tech this morning. And welcome and special thanks to our cherub choir and choristers this morning. At First Unitarian Society, we question boldly, listen humbly, grow spiritually, act courageously, and love unapologetically. If you are visiting us today, welcome. We are so very glad that you're with us. If you'd like more information about First Unitarian Society, please stop by the welcome table located in the Commons just out those doors and to the left. We hope you'll be able to stay and join us for coffee hour immediately after service, also in the Commons. For those connecting with us virtually today, we are glad you are with us as well. And we hope you will be able to take a moment and watch the announcement slides after today's service to learn about upcoming programs and activities. Members of the FUS Racial Justice and Climate Action teams are organizing a voter engagement postcard campaign. Your response to the last one at the end of summer was terrific. If you missed that opportunity and you want to get involved, or just want to get involved again, please see the red floors for more information, or talk to Liz Hatchen or Sue Haug in the Commons after today's service. Speaking of out in the Commons, this weekend is our annual Opportunities Fair. This is your chance to learn about so many of the ways to get more involved here at FUS. Representatives from our various teams and groups will be excited to talk to you about opportunities to volunteer, serve, deepen, grow, and connect. Again, at all those tables you see in the Commons right after service. And finally, Autumn Fest, our annual fundraiser auction and an incredibly fun day, is coming up soon on October 26th. You can now buy tickets online at fusmadison.org/autumnfest. You can also find more information there about donating to the auction, all the activities that are happening on that day, and how you can help if you would like to help make the day happen. Cheryl Mellenthin, our stewardship director, is in the Commons today and would love to speak with you about Autumn Fest. And now, I invite you to join me in a moment of silence to center ourselves and bring ourselves fully into this time as we join together once again in community. Listen, can you hear it? The Spirit is calling.
It calls us in the silence and through the noise and busyness of our daily lives. It calls us in the brightness of the day and the darkness of the night, in times of hope and despair.
Listen, can you hear it? The Spirit is calling.
It doesn't matter what you call it, for it has no name, and many different names. The Spirit of life, the Spirit of love, the Spirit of compassion, the Spirit of hope, the Spirit of justice.
Listen, can you hear it? The Spirit is calling.
It is calling to you and to me. It's calling us to greater wholeness, greater connection, greater service, greater love. It's calling us to heal the brokenness within ourselves, in others, and in the world. It's calling us to live more deeply. It's calling us to beauty.
It's calling us to laugh and dance and sing. It's calling us to live through life's pain and sorrow. It's calling us to live courageously and kindly, to speak our truth in love, and to bend the moral arc of the universe toward justice.
It's calling us into community. It's calling us into the greater life of all.
Listen,
Can you hear it?
the Spirit is calling.
And now I invite you to rise in all the ways that we do, and join me in the words on the screen for the kindling of our chalice flame. The flame of our chalice is quiet, but not quite silent. In a still room, up close enough, some ears might hear it burn. The stirrings of conscience are quiet, but not quite silent. With patience and effort, caring hearts can feel their pull. Whether or not we hear this flame, may our hearts be moved to compassionate action. And now I invite you to turn to those around you and greet each other with signs of love and peace.
Sing together our opening hymn in the gray hymnal, number 298, Wake Now, My Senses. Wake now, my senses, and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being all. Keep with the web of creation.
like to invite forward now anyone who would like to come up and join me for a story this morning. Hello. Hi there. How are you? Oh, I like this shiny pumpkin. Very nice. Very nice. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, turtle. Okay. So, how are we all doing this morning? Good? All right. Today we start a new theme. I don't know how conscious you are of the fact that we have themes every month here. How much or how little they come up varies pretty wildly, so you could be forgiven for not noticing. But this month we're starting a new theme, and the theme is deep listening. Listening deeply. Now, lots of people have lots of different ears, and some people's ears work in lots of different ways, so that some people very literally do not listen, at least not with their ears, and some people's ability to listen with their ears varies very widely from having very sensitive ears. Keen is a fun, specialized word for how sharp or how detailed someone's senses are. So you can talk about having keen hearing or maybe not so keen hearing. But this story is about two people and the way that they hear differently. And when I tell you a story, I like to tell you where it comes from. Maybe it comes from a particular country or a particular religion or some other particular culture. Oh, you want me to get to the point, huh? Yeah. Fair enough. I'm just leading up to saying, I don't know where this one comes from. I found it in a bunch of different places, but with no attribution, so I don't know who created it. I suspect it's fairly recent, like the last 100 years, but I don't know for sure. And if anybody within the sound of my voice knows, you can let me know, okay? But here's the story. I'll get to the point as you asked me to. All right, so here's the story. Once upon a time, there were two cousins. Two cousins. One of them lived in the city, one of them lived in the country. And the country cousin went to visit the city cousin where she lived. So, the two cousins are out for a walk on a busy city street, and there's lots of cars and people moving up and down the sidewalk. There's like people pushing carts, selling food. There's all kinds of stuff going on this city street. And the cousins are walking along, and the country cousin stopped all of a sudden. And the city cousin noticed this and stopped next to her cousin and asked, what's going on? Why did you stop walking? And the city cousin said, well, I heard something. I hear the sound of a cricket. Now the city cousin said, what do you mean you hear the sound of a cricket? I hear the cars going beep, beep, et cetera, I hear all the people who are having different conversations around us. I hear the people trying to sell hot dogs to me, but I don't hear any cricket. And how could you possibly over all of this noise? But the country cousin was very insistent. And so she looked around for a little while. She found a wall with some ivy growing on it. And in the leaves, oh, not poison ivy, regular ivy, yeah. And in the leaves, otherwise, the poison ivy, she probably shouldn't have gone digging around it. It was regular ivy. So in the leaves of the ivy, she found a little cricket, and she showed it to her city cousin. The city cousin was impressed, but she said, well, it just must be that your ears are so much sharper than mine. You can hear better. It's probably something that happens from living in the country. You get a better sense of hearing. The country cousin said, I don't think that's it. And to make her point, she reached into her pocket and she threw a coin onto the ground. Oh, you noticed that, huh? Well, so did everybody else around. A bunch of people stopped. Some of the cars slowed down. Even the people who didn't stop, they turned their heads to see what made that noise. It was a coin. And it really got their attention. And the country cousin's point in all this, do you know what her point was? Anybody got any idea what she was trying to make the point about with the coin? What do you think? Everybody could hear it good. That's right. Really got people's attention. Their ears perked right up. What do you think? Some people can hear with their noses. So yeah, lots of people have a stronger sense of smell, maybe. Yeah. Well, yes.
Why did she do it?
Why did she do it? So here's the point she was trying to make. You hear and maybe see or smell better the things that you are looking out for, the things that you are trying to pay attention to. If you're focused on them, you do a better job of seeing them if you can see, of hearing them if you can hear, of smelling them if you can smell. You focus on the things that you are trying to pay attention to. And the people in the city weren't trying to pay attention to crickets, but they were trying to pay attention to coins. So that is my story for you today. And now we're going to hold where we are so that we can listen to the choir again.
It was a misty morning on the top of the hill, with all the trees below me standing quiet and still. And in a distant voice, I thought I heard someone say, "It's just a misty morning, thinking of for today." In all the spiders' webs, I saw a glistening haze. In all the butterfly tents were dressed in silver and glaze. And in a distant voice, I thought I heard someone say, "It's just a morning's way of thinking of for today." Misty morning of a greener dawn, your day is here. Misty morning, I can hear your song. Your song is quiet, but your song is clear. Another misty morning may awaken my hill, and when it comes, I hope I can remember it still. How on this misty morning through the valley of gray, I heard the voice of creation thinking of for today. Misty morning of a greener dawn, your day is here. Misty morning, I can hear your song. The sound is quiet, but the song is clear. Another misty morning may awaken my hill, and when it comes, I hope I can remember it still. How on this misty morning from the valley of gray, I heard the voice of creation thinking of for today, thinking of for today, thinking of for today.
And now would you help me sing Our Children on Their Way? With kindness lights our world. Now I invite you to rise in body and or in spirit, and we'll sing together another hymn, number 117, 117, O Light of Life. Light of life,
Maybe prayer doesn't mean talking to God at all. Maybe it means just listening, unplugging the TV, turning off the computer, quieting the mental chatter and distractions. Maybe it means listening to the birds and the insects, the wind in the leaves, the creaking and groaning of the trees, noticing. Who else is out there, not far away, but nearby, sitting so still we can hear our heartbeat, watch our breath, the gentle whoosh of air, the funny noises from our own insides, marveling at the body we take so much for granted. Maybe it means listening to our dreams, paying more attention to what we really want from life, and less attention to all the nagging, scolding voices from our past. Or maybe it's all about listening to each other, not thinking ahead to how we can answer or rebut or parry or advise or admonish, but actually being present to each other. Perhaps if we just sit quietly, we'll overhear a peace whispering through the centuries that's missing from the clamor of the moment. Maybe prayer means listening to the silences between the words, noticing the negativity of space, the vast, undifferentiated, and nameless wonder that underlies it all. Maybe prayer doesn't mean talking to God at all, but listening with the heart to the angel choirs around all of us. Those who have ears, let them hear.
And who by fire, who by water, who in the sunshine, who in the nighttime, who by high ordeal, who by common trial, who in your merry, merry month of May, who by very slow decay, and who, shall I say, is calling? Those lines come from a song that is likely familiar to a few of us, which is by Leonard Cohen. And its structure and some of the lyrics are drawn from a prayer in the Jewish liturgy for this season called Unetene Tokef. This prayer poem contains a couplet that summarizes the cosmic understanding of the days of awe, the time in the Jewish calendar in which today falls. On Rosh Hashanah it is written, on Yom Kippur it is sealed. In Jewish theology, these are the days when the Holy One, the judge and architect of all things, makes and finalizes the decision as to what will happen in the year ahead. In particular, who will live and who will die, and how. Who by fire, who by water, etc., etc., etc. So this 10-day window is a time of spiritual accounting. One of the slightly less common greetings for this time in Hebrew is Gemar Hatima Tova. May you be inscribed in the book of life. In concept, the book of life is a literal divine record of each of our deeds, as well as all of our destinies. This is the theological lattice work on which hangs the interpersonal and self-work that is rightly associated with the holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. The work of seeking forgiveness from others, offering forgiveness to others, and seeking to forgive ourselves and the world, and even God, for an infinity of failures, mistakes, and disappointments. The Jewish scholar and liturgist, Marcia Falk, summarizes the spirit of this reconciling work, which of course can hardly be limited to 10 days out of the year, but does have a special focus during this time, in a brief poem. First, she quotes from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 6, verse 16. Stand at the roads and consider. Look into the paths of the past, see which is the road of goodness. Walk it and find tranquility. Then she adds to it this: in the mirror of our eyes, the other is reflected. In the eyes of the other, ourselves. We look outward, inward, see how we have hurt and harmed, how hurt embeds even in the smallest wounds. We give ourselves over, begin to make amends, begin to make ourselves whole. Now, like all religious holidays, those who participate in the Days of Awe have a wide variety of relationships to the beliefs that are the why of it, and an equally diverse range of engagements with the practices that are the what of it. But when we talk about this season in the Jewish tradition as being one of repentance, atonement, and forgiveness, it is in the context of being judged and wishing to be judged well, very much after the model of a court of law, with detailed records and a careful weighing of evidence. For this reason, it is sometimes said that this time is defined by two specific facets or dimensions of the divine: Gevura and Chesed. Now, Chesed is the easier of the two to translate. It means mercy, compassion, loving kindness. Gevura is a little more complicated. Literally, it means strength or might, but it symbolizes more than this. It is the essence of judgment. It is the capacity to judge and, indeed, to punish. And who, in her lonely slip, who by barbiturate, who in these realms of love, who by something blunt, who by avalanche, who by powder, who for his greed, and who for his hunger, and who, shall I say, is calling. Now, Leonard Cohen was both a Buddhist and a Jew. So let us have a Buddhist story now. Once there was a bandit who terrorized the countryside. He would set upon travelers on the road, rob them of their possessions, and kill them in a variety of grisly ways. His name was Angulimala, which means necklace of fingers. Maybe you can guess where he got that name. The local ruler sent out his forces again and again to capture or to kill Angulimala. Each time, he destroyed them or escaped, until he met the Buddha, whom he could not kidnap or kill, who had no possessions that he could steal. Angulimala could not overcome the Buddha by strength or force, and so he became one of his students instead. When the monarch who had failed to bring Angulimala to justice heard of this, he went to the Buddha to ask him, "Now that he is in your power, will you not punish him?" But Angulimala's contrition was authentic. He had renounced his former life and ways, aware that he would do no more harm. The Buddha had no desire to mete out punishment. However, when some of the villagers who had lived in fear of the bandit for so long, who had lost things of great value to him, who had lost loved ones to him, when they attacked and beat the now harmless monk, the Buddha did not intervene. In fact, he forbade his student from fighting back, even to defend himself, explaining that it was a natural consequence of Angulimala's past actions. a burden that he needed to bear, and a lesson he needed to learn. This story seems to me to be entirely about Gevurah and Chesed, about the tension between justice as power and justice as mercy. And Gulimala was so powerful in his violence that no other violence could overpower him. And yet, the teacher's perfect compassion moved him to give up violence entirely. At the same time, the Buddha's compassion for his new student, although he wished him no specific harm, did not move him to insulate Angulimala from the repercussions of the harm that he had once done. It is all too terribly common in these days to think of justice as merely a matter of raw power. Righteousness is here imagined as the capacity to dole out harm to the criminal or the wicked, put together with the passionate disdain for such evildoers necessary in order to destroy them. This is not a universal idea, but it is a popular one, and our society and its politics suffer for it. But there is another dangerous moral simplification that does nearly as much harm. This is the idea that mercy, compassion, forgiveness, that the finest expression of these qualities is when they are boundaryless and without limitation. That to be truly kind, we must give up all consideration of ourselves or others and focus only and exclusively on the present subject of our kindness. As I say, both of these are destructive mistakes. Justice is not merely the brutality of power, properly aimed. Compassion is not a matter of simply being fawningly nice. The power to halt injustice, to prevent or to heal harm, requires compassion in order to be put into practice. Cultivating loving kindness should make us more interested in the health and well-being of all people, including ourselves. One of its key demands is for us to work towards justice. Gevurah and Chesed may present as poles that we move back and forth between. In Jewish mysticism, they are sometimes represented as literally the left and the right hand of God. But the full expression of one requires the full engagement of the other. They are not opposites. They are complements. And who by brave assent, who by accident, who in solitude, who in his mirror, who by his lady's command, who by his own hand, who in mortal chains, who in power, and who shall I say is calling. Acknowledging the tension between these two poles and the danger in oversimplifying either presents us with the dilemma which is the essence of judgment itself: to choose between. If the challenge of living rightly is to find the balance point between Gevurah and Chesed, between justice and mercy, how are we to discover such a path? My answer for you, incomplete as the answers to the very most important questions always are, is to be found in listening. The contemporary feminist and author Courtney E. Martin advocates for cultivating a deeper awareness of one's own instincts, particularly in times of fierce moral challenge, saying, "We have, at least A lot of us have awesome instincts. If we listen hard enough to our own hearts, we notice when the whispers become fervent little screams. That's what I want more of. That's what I crave to understand. That's the kind of person, mountain, book I want to be near. That's the way I want to feel. And the activist Valerie Carr challenges us particularly to open ourselves up to listening to the other, especially where it is challenging to do so. So she writes, "It turns out it is extremely difficult to draw close to someone that you find absolutely abhorrent. How do we listen to someone when their beliefs are disgusting or enraging or terrifying? An invisible wall forms between us and them, a chasm that seems impossible to cross. We don't even know why we should try to cross it. In these moments, we can choose to remember that the goal of listening is not to feel empathy for our opponents or to validate their ideas or even to change their mind in the moment. Our goal is to understand them. When listening gets hard, I focus on taking the next breath. I pay attention to the sensation in my body: heat, clenching, constriction. I feel the ground beneath my feet. Am I safe? If so, I stay and slow my breath again, quiet my mind, release the pressure that pushes me to defend my position. I try to wonder about this person's story and the possible wound in them. I think of an earnest question and try to stay curious long enough to be changed by what I hear. Maybe, just maybe, my opponent will begin to wonder about me in return, ask me questions, listen to my story. Maybe their views will start to break apart, new horizons will open up in the process, and then again, maybe not. It doesn't matter, as long as the primary goal of listening is to deepen my own understanding. Listening does not grant the other side legitimacy. It grants them humanity and preserves our own." End quote. Now, I find Carr to be clear on this point, but I want to underline it again. That the strategy for preserving and acknowledging the humanity in ourselves and others, including our adversaries, does not extend to self-destruction. She checks. Is she safe? There are many situations where it is sensible to answer no. None of us are obliged to stay open in a context where our health and lives are put at risk, nor to consent to listen indefinitely to someone who will not return that courtesy to us. In the Islamic tradition, there is a story from the youth of the Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him and his family. It occurs when Muhammad is still a young child, out in the countryside, assisting in the guarding of grazing animal flocks. The tradition goes that two strange men, both wearing all white, caught him and performed some manner of supernatural surgery on his body. They opened a hole in his chest, but he did not bleed. They removed his heart, but he did not die. Then they cut the heart in half, and they removed a tiny flaw hidden inside of it before washing both halves with snow, putting it back together, putting it back inside of him again. Now, there are actually very few miracle or wonder stories like this about Muhammad. During his career as a prophet, he was never associated with any supernatural display. As he repeatedly said, that the revelation he had been given was the only miracle he wanted or needed. Nevertheless, for centuries, Christian opponents of Islam seized on this story about the cleansing of his heart as somehow particularly unbelievable. I did not know that we were judging religious traditions on the basis of how believable their stories were. But that image, to me, is very striking. In the moments when I am humble enough to recognize my own faults and failings, how attractive is the notion that some heavenly agents might extract from me my moral flaws and make doing right as natural and easy as doing wrong. I have never been the beneficiary of such a miracle, and I doubt that I ever will. But the practice of listening to the human beings around me, to the deep stirrings of my own heart, sometimes this does seem to offer a renewal almost as wondrous as if I had been given a new heart, cleared of flaws and cleaned with snow. When I set aside all of the righteous tension and hurried energy that too often bubbles up inside of me and focus for an instant on the present moment. In the pivotal biblical story of the Exodus from Egypt, the prophet Moses hears his calling by the Holy through the medium of a burning bush, a flowering tree, crackling with fire, which is yet unconsumed. The story goes that the divine spoke to Moses and bid him go to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, to carry the demand, "Let my people go." But Moses protested, saying, "Please, Holy One, I have never been a man of words, either in times past or now, that you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." We do not know for certain exactly what that meant. Some explain that Moses had a cleft palate. Others assert that a childhood injury had literally damaged his tongue. Still others describe the issue as a severe speech impediment. Whatever the case, it seems clear in the story that Moses was afraid that he would not be understood or listened to, and that fear was grounded in a lifelong experience of being misunderstood or ignored. Yet, the God of the Exodus is insistent that Moses shall be their messenger, slow of speech or not. The liberation of his people shall depend upon the man whom nearly no one had ever listened to before. Aware of the miraculous healing stories and the general omnipotence ascribed to the God of the Abrahamic tradition, we might expect Moses to be healed in mind or body in order to take up his work as a prophet, to have his speech suddenly quickened and normalized. But this is not what happens in the story. Instead, the voice from the burning bush directs Moses to go to his brother, Aaron. He can understand Moses, and he can listen to him and repeat what he says, so that others, eventually, even great Pharaoh himself, will listen as well. As a sibling to a developmentally disabled person with a non-standard speech pattern, I recognize very well the truth that family members might understand Moses the first time, where others would call on him to repeat himself over and over again, and even then still might not understand. And I appreciate how that little taste of the daily struggle to be understood that comes from loving someone who navigates it constantly and with a strong spirit can serve as a lesson in the imperative for listening to others. From the most intimate personal struggles, the conflicts of ideals and personality with our family members, partners, close friends, or work colleagues, to the most public sorts of clashes, divisive political disputes, high court battles, and war. There can often come a temptation to withdraw, at least insofar as we can, to cut ourselves off from the fight, to close our ears to it and deny the matter our attention. But the harder, greater discipline of living is to listen, to do our best to follow the heart through a pathway between justice and mercy, to risk being wrong or being thought wrong, and to choose. Following the words of Jeremiah, to stand at the roads and consider, look into the paths of the past, see which is the road of goodness, walk it, and find tranquility.
I invite you into this time of giving and receiving, where we give freely and generously to this offering which supports the ongoing work of this community and the work of our outreach offering recipient. This week's recipient is the Wisconsin Network for Peace and Justice. WNPJ was founded in 1991 as a coalition of activist groups and citizens of conscience within Wisconsin. It works to advance a sustainable world free from violence and injustice by connecting, engaging, and strengthening member groups and serving as a catalyst for community organizing and education. There are multiple ways to share your gifts this morning. Baskets now being passed here in the auditorium for cash or checks, or as you will see on the screen, that you can donate directly from our website, fusmadison.org. You will find our text to give information there as well. We thank you for your generosity and your faith in this life we create together.
Each week we gather, carrying in our hearts the joys and losses of our days. We hold our own pain and celebration together with those of the ones we love. We share these here, knowing that they are held gently, in care, in support, and in love. We light a candle of grief and gratitude for the life of Lee Vierstra, who died last week. Lee was a teacher, formerly of Madison's East High School, where she was memorialized with these simple words: "Thank you for sharing your light. She will be sorely missed." We light a candle of joy for those in our midst and in the larger world celebrating Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, this past week, and the days of awe which follow. We wish you Shana Tova Umetucha, a good and sweet new year. We light a candle of lament as we approach the 1-year anniversary of the October 7th attacks and kidnappings in Israel and Palestine. Lament for that day and for the decades of cyclical violence which preceded it, and for the year of terrible bloodshed that has followed it in Gaza, in the West Bank, and now in Lebanon. May the guns fall silent, may the bombs cease to fall, and may every child have clean water, food, medicine, and a home in which to safely sleep. We light a candle for all those who feel isolated by grief, by chronic pain, by mental illness, and all others who are alone and lonely. To you we extend our compassionate hearts. And we light a candle for all of the cares that live in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. Worries for the ones we love, fears for our world, and all who inhabit it with us. I invite you now to turn with me both inward and outward as we enter together into an attitude of meditation and of prayer with these words from Becket Coppola. Spirit of life, we know there are as many perspectives and experiences of living here in this room as there are people. Spirit of love, please guide us gently into appreciating and listening. Assist us to honor each other in conversation and deeply hearing so that we can see the gift of a collective. Show us how we can find understanding by learning to speak one another's languages so that we may go deeper into our beliefs and connection through a personal, communal, and perpetual evolution. Breath of life, give us the patience to live into this faith of community, the curiosity to ask loving questions of each other, and allow us to be always expanding our spiritual awareness of the worlds within and without. Inspiration that is this life, we offer our gratitude for the comings and goings, beginnings and endings, through which we have each been granted the opportunity to reflect with openness, both upon what is within our individual experience and that which is within another's. Blessed be. Go now in peace. Deeply regard each other. Truly listen to each other. Speak what each of you must speak. Be ready in any moment to disarm your own heart. And always live as if a realm of love had begun. So be it. Blessed be. Go in peace. And please be at rest for the postlude.